That's for.
I don't know.
I watched Jenny set this up.
Oh, fancy. Okay, so if I turn this, oh, it sees everyone. That's bizarre. Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's
That's the owl.
That's it.
Owl.
Yeah, the owl sees everyone. It sees you. It's watching you. That's the camera it's using. Okay. We'll give Mike another minute or two, and then we'll get going. I'm not sure what my rules are for numbers. I think 3 out of 4 is doable.
Okay.
We'll roll with that if we need to. We'll give Mike a few more minutes and go.
Meatloaf didn't write a song about that.
What's that?
Too bad Meatloaf didn't write a song about that.
Yeah, okay. Andy's the alternate. He will not be here tonight. He's off doing Andy things, working. And I assume Mike was going to be here, but I don't think I ever got a confirmation email back from the one I sent 2 days ago or Monday. But we'll see what happens. Bethany, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you great. Is St. Lawrence representative there, Tara Freeman?
Yeah,
And Paul's here.
both Paul and Tara are here.
Oh, great. Okay.
Okay. I think I put that on the echo. We'll see if it'll allow. Do all the paperwork, right? Caitlin, you saw it all?
On my phone.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We'll open the public meeting. This is for an application for a area variance for a sign on East Main Street. Just to get the names recorded so we all know who's here. So when we take the notes later, we know people are here. We'll just go ahead around the room and say hi, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for a public hearing, which is public comment. And we'll hear what the application is, and we'll go from there. Bethany, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. So go around the room. We have
Pete Beekman, Tim Nolan, Code Enforcement.
Tara Freeman, St. Lawrence University.
Paul Redfern, St. Lawrence University.
Caitlin Gollinger.
And I'm Conrad Stuntz. I'm the chair of the ZBA. And online we have
Bethany Bernatovich, ASI Signage.
Great. All righty. So the application before us is for an area variance. Bethany, are you going to speak to this, or are we going to have Tara or Paul talk to it? What the application is?
I'd be happy to speak to it, or they can.
Go ahead, Bethany.
Okay. You want me to just kind of go through? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us what you want to do, or what we're
Okay.
trying to do here.
Sure. So the current sign was located at the corner and it was removed. And this is a replacement sign that allowed us to add additional copy to the sign, and we did make the sign larger. It is located under recommendation of Tim Nolan. We had one location, it has been moved. If you're looking at the wayfinding signage PDF, I don't know if you guys have that available.
I think we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we went through a process, and this has actually been relocated, but the sign variance is for the sign being 6 feet larger than what is allowed. So 42 square feet is proposed, 36 is allowed, 17% is the increase. And that's really the basis of it. We wanted to add copy, and we wanted it to have the branding of St. Lawrence University. And we did revisit the location so that we could, fit more code requirements.
Okay. Cool. All righty.
Conrad, if I
Yeah,
could just add
Paul.
one point, I don't think that the old sign on the corner has been removed yet, although it might not be visible because of
It's in the swamp.
the
Yeah.
swamp that is growing up around.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of cattails growing around it right now.
But just to be
Yeah.
accurate for you, we do plan to remove it.
Okay, so that it's basically it's a relocation and a development of a bigger sign. What's the current size of the current sign? Does anyone know? How big is the current sign on the corner?
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know. I want to say that it is actually taller. It's just dimensionally a little different. It was taller than what we did here. This was a little wider.
Well, I was curious about the square footage.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I didn't realize it was a sign replacement. I think I missed that. Otherwise, I would ask.
Bethany, did you measure that existing sign?
I did. And if I can I can come back into the meeting with some information. I just have to do a little research. I'm sorry I don't have that at my fingertips.
Okay.
I bet you if I dug through my emails, I might find some information
Well-
that you sent me.
And I'd be happy to, I'm looking for it now.
Okay. Great. Okay. So it's basically it's a bigger sign. It's changing the copy. It's moving it onto Main Street, away from the corner where it lives in the cattails right now.
I will make a comment though.
Mhm.
If that sign was allowed to be there, the reason it was moved, because it was in the DOT right away and had been there for quite a while. Nobody noticed it until Bethany actually came forward and submitted a sign application, and I did my homework, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't belong there. So if that sign if it was larger than what is allowed, in that location, it would not be an issue, because you could make, as long as you have a non-conforming sign, you can just, if you try to make it larger, it's no good. But if you keep it within the constraints of that sign, however, moving it to a new location, you basically have a new sign. You can't take that old sign, even though it was pre-existing non-conforming, and
It voids it basically.
It voids it.
Yeah,
So-
it voids the grandfather clause.
yeah,
Basically,
like
you
if
can't.
it stayed in that spot and it was allowed there, we wouldn't be here.
Alrighty. Does the board have any questions for what the application's about?
Mhm.
No? Okay, cool. Any public comment? No. Okay. I think the neighbors are not speaking a lot right now. The neighbors being,
I
yeah.
think we're the neighbor.
I think you are. It's a good thing you're.
Like
good.
you're-
hospital.
You're three of the neighbors,
Yeah,
and then there's the hospital.
I think so, and then
We
across the
actually-
street.
There's
I
a
think-
cemetery.
we own the hospital
Yeah.
land too. I
Yeah,
think. We
yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that you basically are the neighbors.
And then there was, I think CCOM
It's across the street. Yep.
was just close enough for a letter.
And the Ace was not quite.
Ace
close.
didn't make it.
They didn't make it. Okay, great. So we covered the neighbors. Awesome. All right. Neighbors, check. All right. So. Yeah. Signs, yeah, the board of signs. All right. Should we is that it on the public hearing? We're ready to go into our meeting?
Mhm.
All right, there we go. There's the public hearing. All right. Public hearing held. We heard the public. We're now going to go ahead and move into our public meeting where we discuss the application before us. Okay. Great. All righty. Questions, guys? No. Okay. All right. So we need to do our standard, going through our list of questions we get to ask
Mhm.
about every single application because we're a ZBA. this is obviously for an area variance. We have the 4 questions we go through every time. You guys have been here before, so this just is not new to you guys. So basically, no area variance will be granted without consideration by the board of the following factors: whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Well, what we're really talking about is the increase of sign size, right?
Mhm.
Not the fact a sign could go in there. So the question is, will the 42 square foot sign is going to have a detrimental impact over a 36 square foot sign? Any thoughts?
I don't think it will have a detrimental.
No.
No, I don't think 6 square feet makes a change one or the other in
No.
terms of impact to that neighborhood. I mean, I think there's plenty of signs in that close proximity.
Mhm.
Throw a rock at a sign over there. But we'll go from there. Okay. Whether benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved in a feasible alternative to the variance. The benefit is better visibility for the golf course, right?
Mhm.
And better, it's a new logo. It's more, what was the word that was used?
On brand.
It's on brand. Well, yeah. All right.
I do like conformity.
Yeah.
My OCD is like
You do like what?
conformity.
Yeah. Is this, talk to me guys about the size of this sign compared to other signs around and that St. Lawrence is using?
So we developed this one in conjunction with some other really off-campus properties that
Oh,
St.
okay.
Lawrence owns, and that's so as opposed to like the ones that were the one that we talked about the last time we were here, which is sort of an on-campus sign.
Yep, that's different.
Directing you. This one is sort of in the family of the sustainability program that's out on 68, the living lab that's out there, the riding hall,
Right.
Yep.
And we also put one. We worked up in Waddington at the boathouse and put a similar one there.
You doing a Watchmeister too?
So and a
There's one there.
Walkmeister
Yeah, there's
has
one there.
So
Those
that's
are all
where-
out of the village.
Yep,
too,
those
so
are all
they-
town.
Different.
Different code.
Yeah,
different
and
code.
that's why you didn't. That's why you
Right.
didn't bring any of those
Right.
here. I think they were all. No, there was
Approved?
one variance that was needed.
Oh, for the
I think,
town?
for the town, right?
I think with
With the riding hall.
writing, yeah.
So that's why it looks the way it does and why it was a little.
So this sign is pretty much identical to the riding hall sign.
Mhm.
Same size and everything.
I think they're all the same
I
size.
think
Yeah.
Bethany, do you know, are they all the same size?
They're within inches.
Okay.
Mhm.
If
Essentially the same.
if there is a slight difference, it's within inches. We're not talking about a foot. It's within inches.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the benefits sought, feasible alternative. I mean, the only is a size variance, right? It's an area variance. So I mean, it's not like we can. I mean, a feasible alternative would be what? Shrink the sign. I mean, I don't.
They could, less copy. But
Right.
I can appreciate, they want to. It was donated way back in the day by Oliver Appleton, and I think it's important that they want to know that it's 18 holes,
Right.
and that the public is welcome. It's not a private club.
Right. Okay.
So probably when you have to put all that text on there, you need a bigger sign.
Can I add a
Okay.
comment?
Yeah. What's up?
The other reason too is that we've got a 36 inches from the grade to the bottom of the sign because we really have some snow conditions we have to be concerned about. So even as the sign design, that St. Lawrence University is at the bottom, and the the important information for the public is at the top of the sign. So there is some height there for the snow that might build up, and anything gets covered St. Lawrence is kind of sacrificing their brand there, and the sign itself is most legible at the top.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. All right, we talked about that one.
Mhm.
You good? All right, whether the requested sign variance is substantial. This gets into like size, right? So we have a sign law that says 36 square feet for a freestanding sign in this location. They're asking for an increase of 17%. What's our definition of substantial? That's what it comes down to yet again.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't. My gut feels I'm not yes or no on that one. Like, I don't feel like 17% is definitely substantial. I don't feel like 17% is not substantial. It could be argued both sides. I'm not sure. Okay.
Mhm.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood? Nope. I mean, we're not talking a giant LED. We're not talking something that's going to cause all light. It's not a lit sign. It's a straight sign on a piece of empty parcel right now that backs up to a parking lot, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. The request for a bigger sign would be self-created because the zoning laws say 36 square feet. Necessitating the move from the corner would not be self-created because it happens to be in a right-of-way. That seems like, I mean, if they're putting the same sign up on the corner, was the original idea to put it on the corner?
Yeah, we worked pretty hard actually to try to make the corner work.
Right.
And we even looked at like, okay, where would we have to put it to make it work? And it just felt like the spot where we'd have to put it wasn't going to be helpful to people wanting to go and get to the golf course.
Okay.
So that's where we went to, okay, what's our next course of action? What's the next best place?
Right.
And I think we in the end, I think this might actually be a better spot for the sign. Unless you like signs that are covered in cattails, then you would like the existing location.
Right. Snowbanks and cattails. It's kind of like where the signs work best. Okay. I mean, yeah. So I mean, the difficulty is basically the sign. It's too small. That the applicant feels that the 36 square feet does not get the copy that they want, right? And you know, okay. Thoughts?
Probably because this is relatively new since codes changed. There hasn't been any other area variances for signs in that area of Route 11, either by CCOM or McDonald's or
Right.
Ace.
Right. Tim, you don't happen to know size of the Ace sign, do you? What was the Walgreens sign?
They exceed a little bit over 36 square feet, but they're pre-existing non-conforming, and that came with the building. So
Oh yeah. No.
it's like if
I'm just
once
kind
again, if they went and
if they moved it.
remove that sign and
Yeah.
try to put it someplace else on the property, it'd be
Right.
An issue.
So when Walgreens built the building there and put that up, were there
Was there
sign regulations for them? Could they have put up?
There were sign regs.
Yeah.
I don't know what sizes they were.
I remember digging into that, and it was. I'm not sure if they had to get a variance or something like that, but
They might have.
It's if I went and grabbed the file, it gave me enough information to contact them and say, we discussed like the non-conforming sign and all that, and it turned out that they could use that because they're not increasing the size of the sign.
Yep.
So that,
Right, okay.
as a matter of fact, I think they were putting less information on. That's one thing I did discover from digging into the file, but I couldn't really honestly say if they had to get a sign variance, and maybe the old code.
It weren't really variances. They went before the village board.
Yeah.
So the village board, like,
Oh, right, it was village board.
it was village board. So there's no, that shows record of it, but it was a different process.
Right. I remember the village board saying after the new codes came in, it's like, yeah, we don't have to deal with signs anymore.
Yep.
So anyway, I think that's the reason why these signs are ending up in the ZBA's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, because it's code. I mean,
which would make sense. You really would want to have the public input on it than the elected officials.
Right.
So.
Yep.
That puts them in an awkward position.
It does. Yeah.
May I
Question?
enter?
Yeah.
Actually, I was just able to find the existing size of the sign that's in the corner. The existing sign was 48 inches high by 106 inches wide for the panel. And our current sign request is 54 inches by 112. So you guys asked for that information, so I hope that is helpful for the,
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
you're welcome.
So that's a 4x9. That's basically a 36 square foot sign on the old sign.
So,
It's about 36.
yeah.
It's a 36 and a half or something like that.
It's right in the.
It's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah. For an old sign. Yeah. Okay. All right. So whether the alleged difficulty is self-created or not, you guys have a gut feel on that one?
What was can you just
Yeah,
phrase
sure.
it?
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. So basically, does the applicant basically, like, are there other feasible ways to do it? Basically, the examples they give on the documentation is, the building changed, they or the law changed on them, or flood happened, or like things that are outside their control.
Right. But I would say, this was in their control. They've designed a sign that's
outside the zoning
that's
law.
outside the code.
Yeah. So to look at these 5 questions that we've talked about briefly here, right? So we said whether we had 2 questions on undesirable change, right? It's the adverse physical or environmental conditions. We're not going to create runoff with this. We're not going to, it doesn't change the character. Basically, we felt like both those environmental and physical environmental changes, there was nothing there that was going to do anything about those 2. Whether there's a feasible alternative to the variance, okay? I couldn't come up with any other way. Like, you shrink it and change your copy, or you leave it there. I don't think there's another way to put a different sign that's going to reach that feasibility. Whether the requested variance was substantial, and that's the 17% increase. Okay. I'd say substantial. What's substantial? I mean, we're not talking 1 or 2%.
Right.
But we're also not talking 50%.
Right.
And then the final question was whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. I kind of felt like, yeah, I mean, the application, it's self-created. It's an application for a sign that's bigger than what's allowed in that location. Okay. Any questions or thoughts? Walter, any questions, thoughts? You guys good?
I think we're good unless you have additional.
No. You guys been watching?
questions, I mean,
I have nothing. I didn't.
I would just, I
Yeah.
guess I would just add that, you know, the university wants to be a good partner, like I said, the last time I was here. And, you know, when I, you know, went out and scoped that location and walked that location and I look up and down the street, it felt like the sign size was not out of place
Mhm.
when I looked across the street at the other sign.
Right. Mhm.
So.
Okay.
I guess you probably don't have the answer to this, but how did they, when they set up the square footage, what were they using? What was their criteria? Were they looking at other?
Yeah. So what we talked about when we created the zoning, the size signs. We had a consultant who was involved,
Okay.
and she basically said in certain regions this is a standard
Okay.
size for maximum stuff. It wasn't. I don't remember it being specific to like this main street. It was like in general, these are the size signs that are reasonable for the visibility at this distance.
Mhm.
And there was some thought put into the general impact to neighborhood based on size of
Right.
signs.
Right.
So it was not a random number.
Mhm.
So because each number that was it was brought forward, she's like, this is what we've done before.
It's 7:30.
Sorry about that.
It's 7:30, Bethany. We're good.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, don't worry about it.
So the conversation, there was a conversation around size. I mean, signs did get a good bit of conversation during the development of the zoning code.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, no, I mean, so it was, I mean, some of the money slipped on the cracks in terms of like, we didn't look at every single number, but we went through each page and each document and talked about why these signs would be this size, whatever. And people ask questions. And so that was myself, that was the planning chair, and there's a couple of village board members on there. And Tim, were you involved in that one too?
Yeah, I just started then,
That's what I thought. I thought you just started rolling in on that one.
but I don't know if I was.
I think
It's too bad I didn't start from the beginning because some of that stuff would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think it kind of like came on like as you're rolling in, learning old and new. Yeah, all the same time.
I came in and halfway through the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Okay. Are you guys? Do we want to table? Do you want to vote? Do you want to get more information? That's the only reason why we table.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
If you had to conform with the 36, what's more important to you, the Oliver D. Appleton or the St. Lawrence University?
Well, I'm not sure I could make that
Okay.
that choice.
Okay.
Those two things. You know, the name of the facility is the Oliver D. Appleton
Right.
Golf Course.
Yeah.
You know, and the name of the university is St. Lawrence University.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would ask to cut any part of the copy. I'd be curious to know. Bethany, have you spec'd out a conforming sign out of amusement, or is this something that you just end up shrinking if you had to conform?
That's a really good question. What we did is we did want to have a signage program for all of the satellite areas of St. Lawrence, and they're all within the same size, height, and width, so that we really wanted to be able to present this to you as is. We have not researched anything further until we knew what your board and zoning would come up with. But we wanted to go in with the idea of this is their signage program. It is all over, all the way as far as Waddington. And we have got a very consistent look and feel and size. So we really wanted to see if we could do that within the parameters of the village.
Okay, cool. Fair answer. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the question before us then, all right, after taking into consideration the 5 factors, right, being the environmental and neighborhood impacts, be it the can it be done, benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by feasible alternative. Is it a substantial change? And was it self-created? After considering those 5 topics, the question is, does the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood and community, or does not outweigh it? So if it does not outweigh it, then it would be turned down. If it does outweigh then it would be passed. Basically, allow it or disallow it. And so what we're thinking about is whether this 6 square foot variance, which, if I summarize correctly in my head, has to do with a overarching St. Lawrence University master plan for signage that's off their local their campus here in town. It allows for the same fonts, the same size, and the same visual copy. So that's part of the branding and etc. What it does do, though, is it puts a bigger sign in the middle of our main street driveway, which, we feel that's what it should be. That's what it should be. But okay, all right. Now, this is where we get into a fun game, okay? Because there's 3 of us, okay? And even with Mike Snow, there'll only be 4 of us, which would be because we could easily tie, which is why it's fun to have 5, not 3 or 2 or 4. If we do end up voting, which I think we are going to vote soon, if we end up voting and we're not agreeing, then I'm not sure what that means. Okay, that's really helpful, I know. But we'll figure out what that means. So basically, if we all deny, then it gets denied. But if 1 denies and 2 passes, is that considered like 2 out of 4? So then it would pass. I'd have to look into the actual laws on that to verify what we're supposed to do in this case with a quorum of 3. So I'm sure there's something somewhere that tells me what I'm supposed to do in that case. So we'll figure that out. So just to let you guys know. Okay. All right. If I talk about it, like, basically, I'm not going to go to the vote yet. Basically, would you guys? I don't think that even if we do approve, there's any conditions we put into play. Are there? In terms of,
No.
I don't think so. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, that's easier. Makes my write up much shorter if I don't have conditions.
We're here to make your life easier.
Yeah. Thanks.
Conrad.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Caitlin. It means a lot. All right. You guys ready to vote?
Yes.
All right. Do you guys want to flip a coin and see who goes first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to say it does not outweigh. So I'm going to say no.
I say no too.
It doesn't. Their benefit.
It does not outweigh the detriment. So basically, I would turn it down.
Okay. I'll say no.
We're not pressuring you, are we?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. With 3 votes on the nay side, that would be a majority, even if we had 5. Okay. So we are turning down this application for an area variance on the size of this sign. Okay.
Conrad, would you be open to a question?
Sure.
What is the detriment?
The detriment.
Because when I listened to your conversation, there wasn't a detriment to the neighbors. The first 2 questions there, I didn't hear any detriments. And then when you phrase the question as what's the detriment versus the benefit, I just would like to understand, because I'm a little surprised.
Okay.
That's where you all came.
Okay.
From. And I hope that that's respectful
Mhm.
and a
Mhm.
respectful question.
So what we look at is there's two aspects to the application. The question as written on here, detriment to the neighborhood or the community. So the neighborhood side, you'd say, is the sign out of place? Would it be in people's faces, or is it going to do a negative impact? All the things you'd think of, like certain signs. We know what those look like, right? The community side is basically, for me, what we're looking at is basically there's zoning laws in place for size of signs. Okay. And so when I look at the community side, when I think about that, I say, what does a 42 square foot sign look like right there? I'm not sure. But we have zoning laws in play. We say, what would the 42 would this basically create an environment? I mean, there is precedent. It does move forward. This is in the middle of the village. And these are hard questions. I mean, so detriment from a impact to the neighborhood, maybe not. Detriment to a community, maybe yes. Okay, in terms of basically spot zoning or spot changing or changing a visual aspect. Okay, yeah. That's how I would answer that. Do you guys have anything that you want to add to that or change, or your interpretation?
And this is one where you go through all 5 questions.
Yes.
And I guess for me, the 17%, when you're talking square feet, it doesn't sound like much, but if you were to offer me a 17% raise, that's a lot of money. And I guess you went into the design knowing what the code was, and you'd like to, which is your prerogative, go for a variance. And I can appreciate consistency and continuity, but I can't imagine anybody has really got that keen of eye where if they're seeing the sign in Waddington versus this, is consistency that important versus precedent setting maneuver with granting a variance on the sign, which now anybody else coming down the road is going to look potentially to get a variance.
I have one additional question
Mhm.
for you. When I look across the street from where we wanted our sign, where we were proposing to place the sign,
Mhm.
and I see McDonald's, and I see
Mhm.
Ace, and I see
Mhm.
the Monroe sign, and I see Stewart's, sort of all right there. I did not go and measure, and I don't know. It's probably a different in a different category of sign, but this didn't feel to me like this was any bigger, for sure, that it was smaller than all of those. So how do I rectify that? Because they're different.
You rectify that in terms of you have pre-existing conditions and pre-existing buildings. It's if you go into a neighborhood and codes change and things get enforced, it's what you live in. You rectify it and you say, that's too bad. I mean, that's a hard one. You're right. Well, it's non-conforming signs, and the question is when do you start conforming then? When do you start following zoning laws? There's always options for changing zoning laws. You can always talk to the village about if the signs are too small. You can talk to the village about changing code and be like, hey, I'd like you guys to readdress that. We feel like along Main Street, this size is not an appropriate size compared to the other stuff there. It's an age-old question. When you put new zoning laws into play, what does that look like? When do you start enforcing? And that's the hard part. So I'm sorry that's where we are.
Thank you. I will say I'm a little disappointed.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Okay, this closes our public meeting. Bethany, thank you so much for your time, and we are all set.